Good to have you back on Newsday. The deregistration of the Youth Party by the Independent National Electoral Commission may have come as a rude shock to those who were convinced that the time had come for the so-called Generation Z to begin to assume the mantle of political leadership in Nigeria. Now, in the light of how much influence money would wield the political process ahead of next year's elections, it was always going to be a huge disruption to the established order. And to explore this a little further, we are now being joined by Ayodele Adio, who is a communications and political strategist. It's good to have you with us, Ayodele.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so can you trace the genesis of this deregistration of Youth Party by INEC?
I don't think it's even right to still call it deregistration. It's exclusion, because the courts have made a clear pronouncement on the position of our party, and the courts have declared that our party is a fully and duly registered party. And hence what INEC is doing is clearly exclusion and not a case of deregistration, because that has completely been settled by the court. And that's why we also participated in the local government elections last year in Lagos and in Imo State. So clearly it's a case of an illegal and unconstitutional exclusion of our party from participating in the 2023 elections. And this comes with very grave consequences given judicial precedents. When a duly registered party is excluded from an electoral process, the elections are usually deemed null and void for that illegal exclusion. And so that's the situation at hand. And we continue to wonder why, despite several court pronouncements, INEC and its leadership have continued to flagrantly disregard court orders and judicial decisions in a democratic system of government, especially heading an institution that is the creation of law. It baffles me and it worries me that we live in a country where public officials can just simply place themselves above the law and go about their daily business, as though they owed the Nigerian people no explanation. And I think it's a shocking situation that we found ourselves in a country, one that must never be tolerated and one that must be challenged. And that's why we'll continue to challenge that illegal exclusion.
Well, I had the opportunity to read your article titled "The Witch Hunt of the Youth Party by INEC," and you clearly have a grouse with INEC saying that there are 18 duly registered political parties in Nigeria. So are you alleging that it goes beyond the Youth Party?
No. I'm saying that if you go to INEC's website, they say that there are only 18 political parties that will be participating in elections. And my argument is very simple, that there are not only 18 registered political parties as we speak today. Because for instance, our party is also a duly registered political party, and our party should be clearly represented on the number of political parties as published by INEC. And INEC should stop parading the narrative that only 18 political parties are going to participate in elections. You can't sit in your office in Abuja and determine the amount of people that will participate in an election when there are registered political parties who, by law, have the right and the privilege to participate in any election that they so desire to. So that's the first, primary problem, which is they go about parading that false narrative that there are only 18 registered political parties, whereas that is not the case. There are several judicial decisions, like I told you, from the High Court, from the Court of Appeal. In fact, the Election Tribunal also in Lagos State, several decisions have clearly addressed that issue and have made it quite clear that our party is duly registered and has every right to participate in the elections in 2023. So the question I'd like to ask, and probably media organizations like yours must put the beam light on INEC, is to ask why they are consistently and flagrantly disregarding court decisions and court orders.
All right. INEC is still sticking to its guns regarding the exclusion, as you call it, of the Youth Party in this regard. So what options are open to you while it's still maintaining its stance?
It cannot be. You cannot stick your guns on illegality, really. There's no grounds upon which you can stick your guns on illegality. Yesterday we were at the Federal High Court in Lagos with an expedited order, which Justice Allagoa made a ruling yesterday ordering INEC, summoning INEC within 7 days to show cause why the 2023 elections to hold with the exclusion of Youth Party. And I'm sure INEC will go there next week to show cause why we have been excluded from the process of the 2020 elections. But clearly, they stand on no grounds. There's no, what are we going to do? The law is clear, except the Nigerian people are comfortable with an INEC chairman that flagrantly disregard court orders. I mean, I don't expect us to wake up to a country where a public official can disregard the Court of Appeal order. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbecoming. This is not the country people died, for the country. This is not the country people paid the ultimate price for democracy for. Because if you are a public official, which is the creation of law, the INEC, and you are an umpire, an electoral umpire, that should create a level playing field for the Nigerian people, and then you sit on a court judgment that clearly says you should not exclude these people from participating, and you do that, there has to be grave consequences for people like that. And it shouldn't be. And you see, I find that in Nigeria, when there is an illegality or when there is a problem facing a particular sector, a particular people, a particular group, we tend to treat it as an isolated issue. So ASU has a problem, it is ASU's problem. So Youth Party has a problem, it is Youth Party's problem. Yesterday, I saw the PDP deliver a press conference of an unconstitutionality happening in Abuja, where a federal high court, and I'm going to come back to that, a federal high court has stopped the swearing in of duly elected council people in Abuja. What order are they relying on? A federal high court order. But first you have a chairman of INEC disregarding the Court of Appeal order. So these are the kinds of illegalities that we must not tolerate in our country. But the problem is that we treat it as the problem of Youth Party, as the problem of ASU, when it's a collective balkanization of our democracy. It's a complete vulgarization of our institutions. They are devaluing us by the day, and we keep treating it as other people's problem, whereas it's a collective democratic problem that we must tackle collectively so that we can expand our democratic space. Nobody, no Nigerian should sit in his office and determine who should run for an election or who shouldn't.
All right, you talked about collective efforts on the part, is it on the part of the people? And how are they giving you that support? How have you endeared yourself to them?
Our people, listen, there are people, we've been on this case for, I would say, about 3 years now, right? We've been suing on an industrial scale, from Yobe to Kano to Kaduna to, right? And litigations cost a lot of money. And people have continued, to support us on the very idea that one, we must expand Nigeria's political space. And two, nobody, however highly placed, should be able to determine or to infringe on the fundamental rights of anybody to aspire from any office in the land. And when you say this, I just recalled with a very heavy heart when you asked, the support that we have gotten over time. A member of our board of trustees, Francis Akiloto, who just passed away 2 weeks ago from terminal illness. Last year, December, while he was sick, we flew to Abuja to see the Senate Committee chairman on INEC. He was sick, he had his drugs. We waited till 12 midnight to see this senator. He was shaking in his car, the passion and the love that he has for this. They don't pay us to do this, for goodness sake. In pain, we went to see this man with all our papers, Court of Appeal judgment, everything. Speak to this and why is he excluding us? 12 midnight. 2 months later, he died in that struggle. Today, we are still being excluded from a process that the court has clearly made a pronouncement on. In fact, that Senate committee chairman is on record, I think last month or two, on Daily Trust newspaper, saying that one of their goals is to reduce political parties in Nigeria to 5. Now, you see, we hear these things every time, and it seems to me like the Nigerian people have viewed political parties as merely vehicles of winning elections. And political parties are beyond that. Political parties are an organized response to the realities or the needs and peculiarities of people at a local, regional, and national level. Now, if you look at the formation of political parties in Nigeria, whether from the 1940s or the 1950s, you'll see that political parties sprang up as responses of people's aspirations or desires to protect either group interests, local interests, or whatever it is. Whether it was, the Middle Belt People's Party that was started by Joseph Taka, or the MZN movement in Zaria that started, or the NEPU movement in Kanu. These were set up to address group interests, and that's how political parties start and grow. Whether it's the Workers' Party or the Liberal Party, that is the core foundation of political parties. Winning elections are great, I must say, but they are beyond just winning elections.
Now, I do appreciate the fact that you're saying that the electorate should not be docile. That's just to summarize what you're saying. But in your article, you were very specific. You said that we must place a demand on the chairman of INEC to either respect the rule of law or respectfully vacate office. Those were the two options that you gave. Now, if neither of these calls are adhered to, I'd like to ask for specifics. What are you asking for?
Listen, I do not envisage a situation where we will not be on the ballot in 2023, because by law, we are rightfully going to be on that ballot in 2023. So in the first instance, I'm not even going to envisage a situation where that is not going to happen, because it has great consequences for our electoral system as a whole. But what I want to continue to speak and hammer about is that, the Nigerian people must begin to fight collectively in the interest of our democratic system. Today, you have people decamping to, where is it NNPP or various other political parties. If you did not have options to decamp to, where would you go to? Right? So when we speak about expanding the political space, it's about the fact that Nigerians will have a choice to run in political platforms that align with their interests or their desires or their value system. Right? And the idea that you can just wake up and say, because a political party was set up in 2018 and did not win an election in 2019, for that reason, we should deregister that political party, it's a complete joke. We need to allow political parties the time and the opportunities to grow their political parties over a given period of time. And so back to your question, I expect that both civil society organizations, both media organizations must continue to put INEC to task, to ask them why they are disobeying a court of appeal judgment. I don't know if you saw it. I attached a photo in the letter, which was their notice of appeal to the Supreme Court. And in that notice of appeal to the Supreme Court, they clearly stated in their notice of appeal that the Court of Appeal has clearly, disregarded and put to null and void their purported deregistration. It was clear in their notice of appeal to the Supreme Court. So until the Supreme Court decides otherwise, today, May 21st, I guess, we're a registered political party in Nigeria and have a right to participate in any election, and nobody should have the right to exclude us from any process leading up to the 2023 election. So it is not just Ayodele's fight. It's not just the youth party's fight. I think it's the Nigerian people's fight to say that they must have an electoral umpire that is unbiased, that is seen to be unbiased, that is seen to create a level playing field for everybody to compete. And if we go to the polls and lose, so be it. But give people the right to participate in the elections.
Very good. Hopefully, we hope you will find some kind of succor on your plight regarding INEC. On that note, we've come to the end of this segment. Ayodele Adio is a communication and political strategist, youth participation in politics. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.